All right, here we go. Today we have Lisane and Jeanine Basquiat, sisters of the legendary Jean-Michel Basquiat, who's the most expensive American painter who ever lived, and currently the co-administrators of his estate. Welcome to Vlad TV.
Thank you, Vlad.
I've been such a long-time fan of your brother.
Oh, thank you.
We appreciate that.
It's just such an amazing display here, and we're going to talk about that at the end. But before we start, I really want to get into the whole story of where you guys came from. So your father, Gerard, he emigrated from Haiti.
Correct.
Okay. And your mom was Puerto Rican.
Correct. From
so
Brooklyn.
You guys grew up in Brooklyn.
We did.
So what was that like?
Brooklyn in the late 60s and 70s for me, a complete melting pot. You know, growing up in Boerum Hill, we first in East Flatbush and then moving to Boerum Hill, there was so many. It was such a diverse group of people that that we lived around, and diversity not only in in ethnicities, but also in economics. So we really had an opportunity to grow up with different people and different walks of life. So I think that it kind of set the tone for us in terms of meeting people.
Yeah.
Okay. And Jean-Michel, he's the middle child, or
No, Jean-Michel is the oldest.
the oldest?
Mhm.
Okay, then who's the second oldest?
I am.
And then you.
Baby, yes.
You were the baby. Okay. So what was he like when you guys were younger?
Jean-Michel was fun. He was a lot of fun. Brooklyn, as Jeanine was saying, was very, it was just fun. It was like, it still to me feels like the center of the universe. Jean-Michel was mischievous. He was adventurous. We played outside a lot. Just kind of going out. Prospect Park was always very close to where we lived. So we would go to Prospect Park, Grand Army Plaza, the Brooklyn Museum, the Botanical Gardens. Brooklyn is very much about riding your bike and roaming the streets and skateboarding and doing all those fun things. Hopscotch and skelly.
Handball,
lots of handball. Jean-Michel was very adventurous. He was a funny kid, meaning that he would come up with all kinds of pranks and mischievous, creative ideas. And we just had a lot of fun. Freeze tag, hide and go seek, like all that stuff.
Okay, and from what I understand, your mom was the one that really took you guys around to the art museums and galleries and everything else like that?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, not so much galleries, but she definitely was the one who, took us to the Botanical Gardens and to the Brooklyn Museum. Jean-Michel was a member. His membership card is in the exhibition. And, but we extended into the city and went to, Museum Natural History, Planetarium. She really instilled creativity in us. And, it was an important part of our lives.
Well, in 1968, your brother was hit by a car?
He was.
Okay, and he had really serious injuries.
He did.
Did he have his spleen removed? Or?
His spleen was removed. He was in the hospital for over a month. He was on his way home for dinner, crossing the street, and the car came around the corner and hit him. And I think it was a really pivotal point in his life because it's, at 8 years old to get hit by a car and to kind of watch your body have to heal through that, I think was a big thing for him. And you can see that theme in a lot of his earlier works.
Well, I looked it up. When you have your spleen removed, the average age of survival is like 6.5 years.
That's right.
So did he have like health issues from that, like
He did
moving
not.
forward? No. Oh, so he
He
fully
did-
recovered.
He did.
Oh, so maybe since he was a kid, maybe the body was able to.
Yeah, I
kind of
think
bounce
so.
back.
I know that there is some, from what I understand, the spleen has something to do with your immune system also. So,
Right.
But he was, he wasn't sickly. He was very healthy.
Okay. And while he was in the hospital, your mom brought him a copy of Grey's Anatomy.
She did.
Correct.
And then did that get him sort of kind of into like the human body and all the different organs and everything else
did.
like that?
It did.
Okay.
Yeah. Jean-Michel was he would gobble information. He loved information. And so getting that book and others really helped him to kind of explore the world and, his own body. And as you can see, again, another theme in a lot of his works is the human body.
When did the drawing start? When do you remember him starting to doodle and really start to
really,
Always.
always really young.
Always.
There was a point where, and there's a video here in the exhibition where he did these little drawings and kind of did stop motion where you kind of flipped the page and it appeared as though it was moving. And they were called, what were they called?
I was going to say fuglies, but that's not right.
Not quite that.
I know, it was
But
something.
yeah.
I don't remember.
And he did name them something, but it to have been so young and to create that in that stop motion manner, I think was really ahead of his time.
Yeah.
Well, after you got into the accident, was that when your parents separated? That same year?
It was close to it. It was close to it, within 2 years of that.
Okay. And then maybe a few years later, your mom was having some mental issues. She was going in and out of psychiatric hospitals?
I don't.
No?
Our mom had some mental health issues.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
she did.
Oh, did that cause the breakup between your parents?
No.
No? Okay. Because I know that he was closer to his mom than his dad, like in the early days, or
No.
about the same?
He was closer, so back in the late 60s and early 70s, our household was similar to a lot of others in that our dad worked in corporate. Our mom was a stay-at-home mom for the most part. And then she went and started working part-time for the telephone company.
Mhm.
And so they had a life where, or the way the household was structured was where our mom was, the stay-at-home mom, and she would take us to, as Jeanine said, to museums and that kind of thing. And our dad worked a lot.
Mhm.
And they, like 50% of the population, divorced or separated
Right.
back then. So in terms of the reasons why, I don't know.
Mhm.
People, don't stay together.
Yeah.
My mother did have mental health issues, and there at that time in our world history, there was a stigma attached to it. So even right now, I feel a little uncomfortable with the question, but I'll answer it.
I understand.
And yes, she did have mental health issues. It had nothing to do with them breaking up. They just broke up because they did.
Got it. Okay. And then you guys moved to Puerto Rico in 74,
We did, with our dad.
73, yeah.
73.
Mhm.
Sorry. And you guys lived out there for like a couple of years
Yeah, two and a half years.
Yeah.
and then came back to Brooklyn.
Mhm. Yeah.
Correct.
Okay. So then you guys come back to Brooklyn, and right around 76, when he was around 16 years old, Jean-Michel ran away from home.
He did.
Okay. Knowing him the way you do, what led up to that? Because that's a pretty big deal, especially as a teenager.
Jean-Michel was an artist, and he wanted to paint. And the city in the 70s was very exciting and alluring. And by the city, I mean New York City. And he had communities of friends, and they were all, creating together and separately. And, their friendships were around that.
Mhm.
And so that's what he did.
Right. And he actually slept on park benches in Washington Square Park during that time.
He couch surfed.
Yeah.
He did. And it wasn't like he left and then he'd come home, and it was, kind of a back and forth thing. Here's the story. Our father, we're first generation.
Yes.
And our father had our father, Gerard Basquiat,
Yeah.
had a very specific idea of what he wanted for his family.
Mhm.
He came to this country to live the American dream. And at the time, the American dream was white picket fence, a dog, a cat,
Right.
blah, 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 3 children,
Not to be an artist. Exactly.
and to go work in
Corporate America.
in corporate America.
Yeah.
Our dad was a controller. He was very successful at what he did. He was a finance guy. And what he wanted and what he envisioned was that we would follow in those very traditional footsteps.
Mhm.
Jean-Michel was an incredibly, as you can see, and as we all know, an incredibly creative person.
Yeah.
And he was very committed to being an artist. Always wanted to be one, wanted to express his creativity and intended to, however he was able to do that. Our dad came to this country at a very young age himself and left his family and had a very clear idea that he proclaimed about what it was that he wanted to do with his life. He was going to be an American businessman. That was his deal. So you have that, and then you have his son, who also had a very clear idea of how he wanted to live. There was conflict there. Absolutely. So we're not denying there was conflict, right? And as they were navigating that conflict, the way that it played out was Jean-Michel leaving home because he was going to paint, because for him, it wasn't about going to school and getting great grades. It was about exploring his art. And that's what he chose to do. Right. So there was discomfort in that. It took a while to kind of figure out their relationship. And there had to be some acceptance and some forgiveness and all of that. And unfortunately, because I know you're going to get there, Jean-Michel passed away in the middle of this process that happens in many, many, many families. And so that is the story. So within that, there was some pain, there was forgiveness, there were arguments, there were disagreements. And then Jean-Michel died. And our parents lost their son. And my mother did have mental health issues. Right. And losing her son, you know, that is a stressful situation, which if you know anything about mental health, stress exacerbates those issues. So that is our family. What is also within our family is a very strong dedication to family and to our family and to having the back of our family, which is what Jeanine was describing before in terms of this exhibition and the work that we're doing to manage Jean-Michel's estate, which is really all about protecting Jean-Michel's legacy, keeping people focused on the amazing life that he had, the amazing work that he put out into the world, and the incredible way that he's been able to inspire generations of creatives during his lifetime and in the 30-something years since he's passed away. And that's a pretty badass thing for one little human being from Brooklyn to do, because we're sitting here 30-something years later in front of a 43-foot painting, New Nile, and I don't know how many feet, but it's big as heck.
Massive.
Yeah, so for us, we want to celebrate his life. We know there's a story. We know people are very interested in like some of the nitty-gritty kind of details, and we can appreciate that. But let's focus on the real thing, which is how inspired people are by Jean-Michel Basquiat.
Fair enough. Like I said, no disrespect intended. I mean, when I do my, research, I try to get into the nitty-gritty sometimes, but I fully respect what you guys are doing and whatever you guys don't want.
We have a space here. We don't feel disrespected at all. We're good.